been through it 4 times. It is a process that you have to go through, all right? Because no matter how many times you go through it, you always learn something new. But the good thing today is that we have a number of amazing guidance counselors here, as well as another representative here who's going to help us out, who got into a number of Ivy League schools. So she's going to give us some little tidbits and hints as to how to get our students into Ivy League schools, if they want. So without further ado, you're going to see a lot of information presented to you, but the process is, it's a process. And, you know, a lot of information is going to talk to you in regards to now how to get prepared before the senior year. All right, little things that you can do to be prepared before students start their senior year. The students here in the audience are not going to like what I'm going to say, but even as far as during the summer, getting things done over your summer so that when you come into your senior year, you have enough to do, or at least have a better understanding of where you'd like to go to college. So we have here, and I want to introduce, we have, I'm going to ask you to stand. I know you know me, I love putting people on the spot. So we do have a new counselor here. This is Kelly Ioka. All right, she is a counselor as well as a college and career specialist. She started with us December. All right. So we do have another person who's assisting us here. We also have Christy McCullough. All right. We're going to ask you to stand too, Christy, because you're new as well. And Christy started with us in August, September. All right. So she's new here to the Glencove High School Family Guidance Team. She will also present to you as well. We have Kristen Schnall. All right. So she's a veteran. Kristen has an experience down at the middle school. So some of your students may have had her as a counselor in middle school. She's been here a number of years. She has a wealth of knowledge. I'll just show you as well. And our other veteran, Melissa Anderson. All right. So she also has some knowledge she's going to share with you today. And, you know, so sit back, look at the information. If you have any questions, we'll be here at the end. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen. Okay?
Take this off of here. Hi everyone, I'm Christy McAuliffe, like Mr. Hudson said. Thank you all on behalf of Guidance for coming out here tonight. I know it was very, very cold outside, so we appreciate you making the trip to come here. If anyone has any questions afterwards, like Mr. Hudson said, we will be available to answer any questions. We did start scheduling junior meetings though, and that'll be reiterated later in the night. However, if you have not yet scheduled your junior meeting, you can contact the guidance office tomorrow and definitely schedule something. We are starting those on Monday. So those would be more for students if you have any specific or individualized questions. That would be the time that you can go ahead and ask those questions to your counselor. So to get started tonight, if I know where to point this, Mr. Hudson, you want to help me out here? Is it not on? Oh, it just had to be turned on. I went to college and I do know about college, but I can't turn this on. So just to get started, like Mr. Hudson said, the college process is very lengthy and it could be very intimidating and scary if you have not yet gone through it, but that's why we are here to help you. There is a lot of researching that you're going to want to get done over the next few months into next year. So you will originally start with figuring out kind of where you want to be. So starting out knowing the size of the school, and I see some people taking out their phones to take pictures. Please feel free to do that as we go along because these slides they'll be available to you in Google Classroom, but it will be helpful to have these going forward as well. Coming from Glencove, you're coming from a pretty medium-sized school, but going into the college setting, you kind of have to have an idea of if you want to be in a large setting, so if you want to be in a classroom setting, sometimes as big as this, sometimes bigger than this, or if you want to be in a smaller setting where you have like 15 students, say, in a classroom to one professor, and you have a little bit more individualized attention. So the main process of college is really knowing yourself, really knowing your child, and knowing exactly where they will thrive and succeed. Location. So location kind of ties into public and private a little bit as well. So in-state, we have the SUNY colleges as well as the city, the CUNYs. So for in-state schools, you would be paying in-state tuition for those state or city CUNY schools, So for those, the cost will be, I shouldn't say a little bit less, but they are a little bit less than some of the private schools that you would be applying to. If you're applying to any public universities outside of New York State, then you would obviously, of course, be paying out-of-state tuition for those schools. So keeping in the back of your mind, and we'll go into the financial aid process a little bit tonight too, but keeping in the back of your mind kind of where you stand budget-wise, also where you stand with your finances. This way you're also setting yourself up, looking down the line, 10, 15 years, student loans. Obviously, everyone is very aware of the student loan issues going on right now. You just want to set yourself up for success, knowing if you would like to continue on to a master's program, a doctoral program, or if you want to start working right away. Environment. So, and this is a main question I think we get a lot, knowing kind of you're in 11th grade right now. Sometimes even 12th grade. I didn't even know my freshman year of college, and I think it's pretty normal to not know. It's okay to go to school undecided, so not everyone is going to be able to choose their school based off of their major, and that's okay. You can still apply to schools undecided, but if you do know your major, making sure that when you are going to visit campus and you are going to ask questions to some of these admissions reps, asking them to make sure that they have accredited programs, a good networking alumni behind them, and making sure that they have a lot of stuff on their campus to be able to help you once you do graduate school. Another thing that we will talk about later as well is athletics. Important for you to know now if you are planning on playing a sport later on. You must let your counselor know that because there are different standards that we will go over as well. So you will hear over the next year something called your target, your reach, and your likely schools. So your target schools are schools that you will have a good chance of getting into. So you will be able to compare yourself kind of to academically where other students have gotten in based on things like your GPA or your test scores if you have taken the SAT or the PSAT. And those are the schools that you should have a good chance of getting into. Your reach schools are typically like something you might hear like called your dream school. So those are the schools with the lower acceptance rates. And we have Angelina here today. She's from Cornell. She's going to go over later about some of those more difficult schools to get into. And for a lot of students, they're difficult to get into. But those would be like the dream school situation. The likely schools are your safety schools. So those are schools that you can look at your transcript, you can look at the things that you've done while you were in high school and say, 90% sure that I will get into this school and I don't have to worry about it. And again, these are all conversations that we will have on an individual basis with your child as well. You might have heard of Naviance already. Naviance is now through single sign-on, so your child can go in through their Gmail account under their waffle. They scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's something called Naviance Student. So on Naviance Student, you'll be able to kind of use this as a tool to research some of these schools a little bit better. What I was just saying before about your target reach and your likely schools, there's something on Naviance called a scattergram, which I think is on the next page. Yep. There's something called a scattergram, so you could input your own information onto Naviance. Most of you will have it already uploaded in there, and it should be pretty much accurate. It's connected to PowerSchool. So you can go on the scattergram, and you can kind of see where you fall in terms of the schools that you are looking to apply to. So that is a really helpful tool that we usually use here a lot. And again, you can come meet with us, and we can go over that with you as well. You can also search for colleges on here. We'll post some other websites that you can look into later. But Naviance is a very helpful tool. We use it a lot over the next year. We'll use it when you're actually submitting your applications as well. So this is something that you're going to hear a lot and you should be very familiar with over the next few months. So campus visits are extremely important because you will get to know who is actually reviewing your application. You will meet the college reps. Usually when you go on a campus visit, you schedule a tour ahead of time. You can do it online or you can contact the school themselves. Once you do that, you will go to the campus. It shows demonstrated interest, which basically means if it's a school that you're very interested in, or even if it's a school that you just kind of want to throw on there as one of your safety schools, the representative and the school themselves will see that you have gone to the school and you see and you're showing that you actually care about your education and that you're willing to make the step to kind of look a little bit further into their programs and into the population of their school community. They have all of their open house dates posted, most of these schools. A lot of them will be kind of in the fall time, so like September, October, and then some of them will start to come out in the spring. It's important because also when you're going to these open houses, you're also meeting other students who might be in looking at similar schools as you, so it's really getting to know other people while you're there, which will sometimes help you even kind of find things that you might like. You might not have known of a program, you might not have heard of a program, so it's really important to start visiting because every school has something different to offer, and sometimes I always say, and this is not going to apply to everyone, it's like trying on a prom dress or a wedding dress. When you step into it, you kind of just know. And I think that's the same thing for a college campus. I think when you step on a campus, you can really tell if you feel like you belong and if you fit in and if you see your life there. So that's why I always say it's very important to actually go there and see the school for yourself. You can also sometimes sit in on classes at some of these schools, which is helpful. So for the students who aren't sure if they want a big or a small class setting size, you can kind of get an idea of what the difference of that is as well. And then you can also sometimes meet professors. So when you're doing your college essay, we always want to make those a little bit more specific for some of those supplemental questions. So once you start meeting professors and having an idea of maybe a different research project that they've done, it's kind of just a good way to make yourself stand out in a unique way, showing that you care about the schools that you are applying to. Now is a good time to start looking into some of when of these open houses are starting. Also, to start kind of planning out trips maybe. We have a lot of breaks coming up. Summer is coming up, hopefully sooner than we think. So going over the summer will kind of help you prepare for starting your applications. Some students might want to start in August, some might want to start in September, so you then be prepared if you start traveling over the summer to go look at these schools. Next up are college fairs. So you'll see there'll be a lot of mini college fairs in the fall here at Glen Cove, but upcoming for us on Thursday, April 10th, we have the Glen Cove Spring College Fair. If students go to that, they get 2 hours of community service. We don't bribe here, but I think that's a really good option for you. Your community service hours are posted on the top of your transcript, right above your GPA, which is what every single college is looking at. So if your community service hours are currently lacking, this gives you kind of a little help there. So even if you're a student who is not sure if they really want to attend college yet or they're looking into some trade schools, it's still helpful to go to these college fairs to have these conversations early on. And then separately, Tuesday, April 1st, Hofstra's Spring College Expo. That's a very large fair. You'll get to see a lot of different schools there. It's a little bit longer, but it is definitely very helpful to go there as well. I am now going to turn it over to Ms. Schnall.
So I'm going to stand on this side because this is actually my better side. Sorry. So what exactly do colleges evaluate? I kind of like to explain it as a puzzle, right? There's all these different pieces, and once the admissions rep have all of the pieces to the puzzle, they'll be able to see the full picture of your application and of your child and what they represent and whether or not they would be a good fit at that school. So over the next couple of slides, I'm going to break down the different pieces to that puzzle. The first piece, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with, are the grades and the transcripts. This isn't everything, but colleges do focus obviously on the grades. And there's no sense in beating yourself up now about the things that maybe you're not proud of or grades that you didn't do, classes that you didn't do well in. All we can kind of do is kind of think about the rest of this year and moving forward. Because you kind of can't change what you already did, but we can kind of do better moving forward because they are going to focus on those grades. So if you're not proud of what you did, make a change now. It's not too late. You really want to finish up this year strong because this will be the final grades that are calculated into your GPA. Your GPA of your student or your child, and I know there's a lot of students in here as well, so I'm speaking to you, your GPA will be finalized at the end of this year with your junior year grades. So you really do have an opportunity to make a nice change if you want to. So that will be at the end of this year. We always use the weighted GPA, so that includes any additional points that are added in when you take an honors course or when you take an AP. That's why we're always telling you, challenge yourself, maybe try an AP or try an honors course. The trend of the transcript is important. So maybe in 9th grade, you started out in a Regents class, and then in 10th grade, you went into an honors, and then in 11th, now you're in a college level, and next year you want to take an AP. Colleges love to see that you've progressed over the last 4 years, the last 3 years, into the 4th year, and that you're really challenging yourself overall, and that you're meeting that challenge. What better indicator of whether or not you're going to be a great college student than if you're doing well in a college class already? So we really do, we were just in the classrooms talking to your students and encouraging them to make their course selections. And part of that is kind of maybe stepping out of your comfort zone and challenging yourself with a higher level class. Don't always just take the easy route. Parents ask all the time, is it better to stay in the regular course and get 100 or maybe get like a 90 or high 80s in the honors level? And my answer is you should always challenge yourself, but you should be getting 90s in the honors level too, because you're probably capable of it with a little bit of work and effort. So, it is important to keep in mind that it's not everything, but it is the big piece of the puzzle. So here is actually a sample of what a transcript looks like. It will be given to you at the junior meeting, and it's also available in the parent portal. So if the student logs in, which they should all know how to now because we were just in their classrooms and we used it, if they log into PowerSchool, on the left-hand side, there's a tab that says Student Forms, I believe, and if you click on that tab, you'll have access to your transcript. Now, the transcript that's in there now, it's like a snapshot of what you've done during your time in high school. So if you can imagine next year, it will have 11th grade grades on it as well. It will have an updated GPA. The GPA is in the top right-hand corner. It will have your total credits, which we'll keep track of, but it's important for you to know as well. And it will also show, as you see here, the work in progress. So that's your senior year schedule. So while colleges, by the time you're applying in the fall, aren't really going to have grades available, they will be able to see that you continue to challenge yourself in your senior year. So I know it's senior year and you feel like you've earned those 2.5 free periods, and you do need a break in your day. I do feel like you've earned it as well, but you should challenge yourself with, higher level classes, and don't just kind of fill your schedule with a bunch of free periods and electives that aren't going to really get you anywhere in the long run. So they will be able to see your classes, but they aren't going to be able to see your grades unless they request Q1 grades or something called a mid-year, which is Q1 and Q2. So around this time next year, they will be able to see not only the classes that you're in, but that you're doing well in those classes too. So just one piece of the puzzle, the transcript, the grades, but again, a very important piece. The next piece of the puzzle is your activities. Colleges have, we see them, they come in for oh my God, I'm blanking on the college fair, and we talk to the reps, and we'll ask them all the time, what are you guys looking for, or what should a student have on their application? And it really is a holistic approach. That's what they're telling us. It's not just one thing. It's not just SAT scores and transcript. It's not just, that you're a killer athlete. It really is the full picture. And so while the transcript is black and white, those are scores, those are grades, this gives your application a little bit of color. So this kind of paints a picture for them. What are you like outside of the classroom? What are your interests? And so if you haven't started tracking the activities, the awards, your jobs you might have held, any community service you might have done over the last couple of years, I highly recommend that you do that now while it's a little bit more fresh in your mind. Start a Google Doc, start jotting down some of the things you've done either in 9th grade, 10th grade, and then even currently this year. And then as you get into senior year or even this summer when you have a little downtime, you can kind of organize it a little bit nicer like you see here. And we give you a sample of this in the junior meeting as well to make it a little bit more impressive to the college when they're looking at it. Now, you will be able to include activities on your application, and you may be able to include a resume in your application, but it also is helpful if you're applying for scholarships to have an application or have a resume, ready to go to shoot off to those scholarship applications. So this is just a sample of it. Again, it's important to kind of give that full picture of what you do, because you're not just a student when you step on that campus. You're not just someone who goes to class and goes back to your dorm room or goes to class and goes home. They want students that are going to bring life to the campus. And so this will kind of give them a good indication of what kind of life are you going to bring. Another piece of the puzzle are the letters of recommendation. So we always, the counselor, will write a letter of recommendation for our student. But colleges will also allow you to send a couple of letters of recommendation as well. So we recommend asking 2 teachers at the end of this year and the spring of this year for a letter of recommendation. You definitely want to approach them in person and ask them face to face. They're taking time out of their busy schedules to write these letters for you. And the more time you give them, I can guarantee the better letter you're going to get. If you go up to them next year, a week before your application is due, and say, "Oh, Mrs. Krish, I forgot to ask, I need a letter." Now they're going to be scrambling to get you a letter. Give them time, give them the opportunity to, give that letter the attention that it deserves. There is a form we're going to give you during your junior meeting, and it allows you to give some anecdotal information or some experience that you had in that class that will give the teacher some stuff so they can personalize your letter a little bit more. They'll be able to pull from it. So there's a teacher recommendation form in the packet that we're going to give you, and you'll be able to use that form and give it to the teacher so that they can personalize your letter a little bit more. The teacher should be focusing on what you're doing in the classroom. The counselor letter will kind of paint the overall picture, what the clubs and activities, your transcripts, and then any anecdotal things just from knowing you over the last 4 years. So what we ask for you is 2 things. There's a parent brag sheet. That's for you, mom and dad, to kind of take the opportunity to brag about all the accomplishments and, the things that your child is their characteristics, how you see them at home. You get to brag to us and give us a little snapshot of what they're like at home. And then the student has the same opportunity. There's something called the autobiography. So you're able to kind of give us a little insight into what you do outside of school, your accomplishments, what you're proud of, what was important to you here in high school. So again, we can use those 2 pieces of information to make your letter a little bit more personalized to the college. We will give you all of this in your junior meeting, but it's important that you start thinking about this now. I always recommend junior teachers, you're fresh in their mind. Their classes are probably the most challenging and close to a college level that you've taken. Not to say that if you've had a teacher in 10th grade that you formed a really great connection with, that they wouldn't be a good option. It's just that the further you get from having them, the harder it is for them to remember those little details about how you performed in class and stuff. So it should be junior teachers, but there's always outliers. Obviously, you're going to want to ask an academic-based teacher. Specifically, if you're thinking about going into engineering, maybe your math teacher, maybe your physics teacher. If you're thinking about going into nursing, maybe your AP Bio teacher, or maybe your chem teacher. You want to kind of align those teachers with the subject matter that is relevant to what you might want to do eventually down the road. And then also, too, if you've been involved in music or sports or anything like that, they really want to see an academic-based letter, and a lot of times schools will be specific with what they're looking for, but you can always have that as like a supplemental letter, okay? And then at the end, you definitely want to thank your teachers. Write them a little thank you note. It really does go a long way. They're taking time out of their day to write these letters that it's going to help you to get into college. So it goes a long way to get a thank you note at the end of the process, to know that their work was appreciated and that you appreciate them the same way I'm sure they appreciated having you in class. And the last piece of the puzzle is this scores, and I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Anderson. She's going to walk you through all of the little nuances and all the information when it comes to the SATs and ACTs.
All right, how we doing? Who's overwhelmed? And we have more. But I want to reiterate, we are, again, here through the entire process. You're hearing it tonight. You're going to hear it in your junior meeting. You're going to hear it over and over again. I see, again, my seniors sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, and that's not a problem. Because if you have a question, I'd rather you come to us and ask the question rather than procrastinate and then we're scrambling to find the answer. So we become very close senior year, okay, closer usually than the other years because you have so many questions. It's very overwhelming. Parents as well, like I hear from some parents 3 times a week as well, and it's not a problem. We will answer the questions. We're here to help you through the process because we do this all the time. We know this information like the back of our hand. It's the first time for many of you, so we know it's a process. It takes a while to understand. It's a lot of info, so we will help you through it, okay? So the dreaded SAT and ACT, okay? So I know a lot of you just, I want to go test optional, I'm not going to take it. We always recommend that you take it and have the scores and not need them rather than need them and not have them, okay? So you want to have them in your back pocket in case maybe a school you decide to apply to requires them. So you want to have those scores. If you don't also take the SAT or ACT, it could also exclude you from certain scholarships. So you just want to make sure that you take them. They don't see them unless you send them, so you have that choice to then do that. You can maybe send to some schools and not to others. You can kind of figure out what it works for, okay? But it's better to have them, try and sit and take them and see how it goes, okay? If you don't like the SAT, you can try the ACT, and I'm gonna go through both of those. So the difference is the SAT is out of 1,600 points, the ACT is out of 36. So the biggest difference is that there's a science component on the ACT and there's not on the SAT. The SAT is also fully digital now, so you can't take it on paper anymore. The ACT you still can, but you can also take that digitally. Now, I know a lot of you have tried it and did the PSAT and did it digitally. I know it's not a test for everybody. Not everyone does well digitally, so maybe you consider the ACT. Maybe you do well on the SAT and digital is great for you. The new thing too is you have to make sure you have your Chromebook. I know a lot of you like to leave it home. A lot of you don't charge it. You don't bring your charger, so just make sure in the morning of these exams, your Chromebook is charged, you have it ready to go because you won't be able to test without it. Now, many of you should also have what's called Blue Book on there, so it should already be on your Chromebook after you've taken the PSAT, so you shouldn't have to worry about it, but you do want to maybe test it out and see before and see if it's working on your computer so you can work out those kinks before you actually take the exam. Okay, so now we offer a practice test for the SAT, which many of you have taken twice at this point. If you haven't, you can go on College Board. You can do some practice exams if you want to on Khan Academy and just get some practice questions out of the way. It's not a test you kind of just want to wing and see how you do. You definitely want to study for this exam. Okay, the ACT also, you can go on Kaplan, and we don't offer a practice exam, but you can also use that as a choice if you feel that's a better fit for you. We often get asked, which one should I take? And my answer is always, it depends. What are your strengths? What do you feel more comfortable with? So that's not necessarily a question I can answer for you. It's maybe try some practice questions. You know yourself better than anyone else, so you would have to go off of that. If you feel one exam would be better than the other, you take that. Or you can try both and see how you do and use the better score for either exam. So now, the other thing. So I mentioned before, test optional. So yes, test optional is an option. However, you always want to refer to the college's website to make sure that you don't need the scores. Although a school may be test optional, the program you're applying for may not be. So you want to make sure that you're looking at those little details. You may be applying to Hofstra for nursing, and Hofstra may be test optional, but the nursing program is not. So you want to make sure that you're looking specifically at these programs because not everything is the same. There's not a one-size-fits-all in all of these puzzle pieces we spoke about. Some require more than others. So you always just want to refer back to the college's website for the most accurate and updated information. Okay, but as for this, super scoring. So we recommend taking the exam a couple times, at least once or twice, because what you can do is super score. They'll take the best from each exam and they will combine it for your best possible score, which is called your super score. Now, when you send those scores, you will be sending all reports, so they will see all of the scores, but they're only going to count the 2 highest, because it benefits them, it benefits you, that's what they're really focusing on. Okay, but you will send both, and you are responsible for sending test scores. So test optional, again, if you want to go test optional route, just always, again, double confirm that you do not need it, that it doesn't exclude you from any scholarships, that the specific program you're applying for doesn't need it, and if it is test optional, then you don't have to send it in. The biggest thing is, if the school's test optional, and you're below the 50th percentile of what they're looking for, you probably don't want to send your scores in. You don't want them to question why your scores are a certain score. If your GPA, let's say, is in the 90s, but you get a very low SAT or ACT score, you don't want them to question anything. Why is the GPA high, but the score is so low? And it also could work in reverse. Maybe your GPA isn't so great, but you do really well on the SAT or ACT, and now they're like, okay, maybe this like showcases them in a better way. So it's another, again, puzzle piece to help show that holistic approach and show that student overall. Okay, so you kind of have to pick and choose and see what works for it. Some schools you may send your scores to and it works. Some schools it may not. So you kind of have to play that game and kind of see what works for which school. Okay, so I mentioned this a little bit before. On the day of the exam, you do have to bring certain materials. So really make sure you read that email and that you get from College Board when you sign up. Bring everything with you. Make sure that Chromebook is charged. It's very important. Bring your charger with you. Bring everything that they ask you to bring. Sometimes you're not testing here. Okay, we don't always offer the exam here. So sometimes you're going to Locust Valley. Sometimes you're going to a school in Connecticut. When they say it's 20 miles away, they don't mention that there's a big body of water in the middle. So it will choose something closest to your location or whatever is left. When we get closer to the spring, students all over the place, all over the country are trying to sign up for these exams, especially on Long Island. So those locations will fill up quickly. So if you wait to the last minute, you may be testing upstate, or you may be going to New Jersey, or you may be going somewhere far to take this exam if you don't sign up for them. So make sure that you're planning ahead. Don't wait to the last minute to sign up for these exams to make sure that you can get one close to where you live. Just make sure you bring everything that you need. And then students with accommodations. So if you do have an IEP or a 504 plan and you do get testing accommodations, you can get that for this exam as well. If you got it for the PSAT, you will get it for this SAT. And you'll get it for the ACT. You just have to apply for it as you're registering. So when you're registering, just make sure you check it off so we get the email to let us know to apply for accommodations for you. Okay, so that might not apply to everybody, but if that does apply to you, just make sure that you check off on that so that you can get the accommodations. But you will have to sit for the entire exam, and you will get all the other, they have to be approved. So once they're approved, we'll let you know, and then you'll take your exam. And now I'm gonna turn it over, or no, test prep, I'm sorry, this is still me. I'm half asleep. So there are test prep options. So I mentioned before, it is good if you do some review for it. This is not an exam that you just want to sit and wing and wake up the morning of and just look over some notes. Okay, this is not something you cram for. So you want to make sure that you are studying weeks in advance, months in advance. Okay, you want to make sure if you can, I know they can be expensive at times, if you can do a review class. If you can't do a review class, there are some free options that you can use, like Khan Academy and Kaplan. If you're good at reviewing on your own, then great. Make sure you're doing that. If you know yourself and you're not great at it, maybe make some flashcards. Again, take 30 minutes out of the day to review. This is, again, not something you want to just cram and just wing the night before. And then everything is on College Board for the SAT. The ACT is on ACT.org, so you can find all the information on here. And again, we will be sending out packets in our junior meeting that have all these websites on there. This will be in the Guidance Google Classroom, so you'll know these websites like the back of your hand by the time you're done with this. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, who's going to go over how to apply.
I'll take your clicker too. Thanks. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to apply to college. So there are multiple platforms that you can use to apply to colleges. The main platform that a lot of college and universities use is the Common Application. However, there are a few other ones that don't use the Common App. So one of them is the CUNY application. That's for CUNY schools, which means City University of New York. So that's one. And then another one, if you want to apply to Nassau Community College, that's directly on their website. And when can you apply? So you can create an account even now for the Common Application. You can even start filling out some of the questions if you want to get a head start, spring of your junior year. And then in August, the CUNY app opens, and then in fall, that's when the Nassau Community College application opens. When should you apply? So There's various application deadlines. It's really going to depend on what schools you're applying to, because they all have different deadlines. During your junior meetings, the guidance counselors will go over with you the application deadlines with you. And again, I know we're kind of saying this a lot during our presentation, but it is very important to make an appointment for your junior meeting. They're already starting to meet with a lot of the juniors. And so some things that they're going to go over is graduation requirements, course selections for next year for their senior year, the college process, and creating a list, and using the Google Classroom. So college essay writing is a class that you could take in the fall of your senior year. And the curriculum for this course is really helping you through the college process. It's another resource for you. It goes over how to do the personal statement for the college essay. They go over the applications, scholarships, all the college fairs and college visits. So if this is a course you want to take, during your senior year this coming fall, definitely talk to your guidance counselor when you meet with them in February. That is when they're going to be doing scheduling for your classes. So if this is an elective you want to take, definitely talk about it with your guidance counselor, okay? And then paying for college. So what is financial aid? Financial aid is money to help you pay for educational costs. So this could be tuition, books, room and board, transportation. And so there's many forms of it. There's loans, grants, scholarships, and work study. So you can apply for financial aid on the FAFSA application. This is going to be on studentaid.gov. And so this application is something you fill out during your senior year. I'm actually organizing a FAFSA completion night next week, Thursday, for the current seniors. And this is an opportunity for students and families to fill out the FAFSA application with financial aid advisors who are experts at the questions on helping you guys answer those questions, because a lot of the questions on the FAFSA is going to be about your income and your tax information. So I'm organizing a whole night just for you to get help with that application, because it is long and a lot of parents and students have questions when they're filling this out. So I will organize this event next year too. So this is something for you guys to look out for in either like December or January for next year when you start to fill out the FAFSA. Also, the CSS profile. This is a way for students to apply for non-federal student aid, and the link is on this slide. It's through College Board. College Board is also another great resource to use for when you're researching colleges. I know we talked about Naviance, but College Board is also another good resource for that. And then also the Excelsior Scholarship. So the Excelsior Scholarship is only for SUNY and CUNY schools. So that means State University of New York and CUNY City University of New York. Those are state schools through New York State, public institutions that offer this program. And it really helps families with the tuition of the state schools, not room and board, tuition. And the main criteria for this is that you have to make under $125,000. That's like one of the main ones. There are other criteria for the Excelsior. So if you want to learn more about it, you can go right to their website right here. And next, we're going to talk about athletics. So if you want to play Division I or Division II sport in college, you should definitely register on the NCAA Clearinghouse fall of your senior year. And you want to start talking to college coaches spring of your junior year. And yeah, that's a little bit about the NCAA. And talk to your guidance counselor too if you're interested in participating in a sport in college. All right, and then this is the last wrap-up slide. Definitely make the most of, this journey. This is a really exciting time. I know it's really stressful because there's a lot that goes into the college process, but this is also the next step in your future. And, we're here for you guys throughout the whole, process. So if you have questions, you can always ask your guidance counselor. You can ask me, the college career specialist too. I love helping students with their futures and with their post-secondary planning. So if you have any questions, please reach out. And I also just wanted to say one more thing too, that I do post upcoming events and updates on the Google Classroom, on Parent Square, and I have a monthly college career newsletter too that I just started. So definitely keep checking those platforms for updates with the college process. And there's also a College and Career Center website on our school district website. You can access it there through the high school guidance department link there. And now I'm going to hand it over actually to Angelina, our student ambassador from Cornell.
Click. Oh, cool. Okay. Hi, guys. So before I start, I'm going to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Angelina. I'm a current sophomore at Cornell University. I'm on a pre-law track studying government and sociology. I'm 19 years young, so I just recently went through this process too. And hearing all of this, it's like re-racking in my brain, like everything I had to get together. So trust me, I know how you feel. I'm a first-generation student, first in my family to go to school, so I know all the tips and tricks. And I'm just here on behalf of Cornell, but also here for you guys to help you walk you through this process in a little bit different of a perspective coming from the Ivy League institutions. So, also, everything that the counselors were saying, I want to reiterate 100%. They are here to help you and utilize it. Like everything that they said, I double 1,000,000 times over. So, Cornell and the Ivy League. In case you're not familiar with the Ivy League, it's a collective set of schools. They're historical institutions, and they're typically known for their academic excellence and their low acceptance rates, which can be intimidating for students, but I don't want it to be. The point of me being here is also to debunk kind of some of those fears and help you understand what the Ivy League really does look for. So, am I the right fit for the Ivy Leagues? Yes, I feel like there's a misconception where you have to have the most perfect grades and you have to have 1,000,000 extracurriculars. And while yes, they're looking for strong academics and strong involvement, that looks different for every single person. Every single person has a different path to school, and every single person's path is going to look different. Because of that, you want to make sure that you take your strong points, and it's all about how you market yourself. If you love to learn, if you're serious about your education, and you want to put in the work to better your future, then you're the right fit for the Ivy Leagues. So, I'm going to kind of go over this a little bit, but when choosing a school to apply to, personally, I applied to 4 of the Ivy Leagues and got into 3 of them. I got into Cornell, Princeton, and Yale. So with that in mind, when you're choosing these schools to apply to, it's not just about the name. You have to really understand what these schools are about, what their mission statements are, what they look for in a student, because how you build your application is going to come from you understanding these schools. And not only that, the better you understand yourself, where you learn, what sticks with you, what spikes those interests, what makes you tick, the better you can apply that on paper and say, not only why am I a good fit for you, why is Cornell or any other Ivy League a good fit for me? Why do we do well together? So you go from being a spectator in the process to being a partner. So when they say that you need to understand these environments that you learn in and understand what makes you tick and kind of just have like, the better grasp you have of yourself, the better you're going to put that on paper. So it's not just about pick me, pick me. You're picking a school also. You're understanding that that fits with you. So I would say they say Cornell to pick 1 to 4 of the Ivy League if that's something that you're looking at and see what best fits you. So I'm going to talk about why I chose Cornell. So personally, I mentioned it before, I'm a first-generation student. That means I'm the first person in my immediate family to attend a 4-year institution or any institution at all. My mom went into the trades, my dad got his GED. College wasn't a true conversation in my family until I got serious about it my junior year. So it's never too early to start. For me, I chose Cornell because of their commitment to supporting anyone from any background. Their founding vision is any person, any study. And with someone with a lot of interest and came from a non-traditional background, that really spoke to me. And that's what made me go that route. But you need to understand what speaks to you. Just because that what spoke to me doesn't mean that's the same, right? I will also say that Cornell meets 100% of demonstrated financial need. So if you demonstrate the need based on your FAFSA and your CSS profile, they're going to meet 100% of the demonstrated need. What that looks like from person to person, I can't exactly say, but I can say that they're there to help you on the financial aspect of things. So again, why Cornell? There's over 80 majors, 8 different colleges, which I'm gonna go over, and the specifics of each college. But the social life is also great. I'm part of both Greek life, academically and socially, because I'm in a pre-law fraternity and a social sorority, and there's over, I think, like 500 clubs on campus. It's in a college town, so you have to understand also what kind of environment you're looking for in terms of location. They were talking about it. Ithaca's a college town, so there's a lot of other surrounding schools, and it's a lot of just college life up there, not much else, but that's something that worked for me. And it's also, if you're interested in STEM, it's one of the highest ranked programs in the country for STEM and other things of that nature. So I'm gonna skip past this, but applying to Cornell. So they went over this, but what I'm gonna really emphasize on is your Common App needs to be personal. A lot of students ask me, because I do one-on-ones on Zoom, what do I write my essay about? I can't exactly tell you. I can't tell you what's gonna make a great essay, because what makes a great essay for everyone is different. What I can say is that your essay needs to be like your thumbprint, your DNA. All of us have one, all of it's unique to you. If it's not unique to you, it's not gonna be unique to the admissions officer. They need to understand who you are and how you got there, right? Because you have your grades on your transcript say, this is the kind of student I am, this is what I look like in the classroom. But that's not the only thing they want on their campus. They want someone who's gonna bring life, innovation. That's where your essays come in. That's where you can really talk about, this is who I am and this is why I think I'd be a great fit. Genuine. There's not a specific topic that they want to hear about. The more it is about you and the better written it's gonna be, because it's personal, right? Something like that. You have your Why Cornell essay. So apart from your Common App personal statement that you send to all of your schools, you have your Why Cornell or the supplemental essay. That question is gonna depend on which school you choose to apply to, that I'm gonna go over in the next slide. But again, understanding yourself, then you're gonna understand what school fits you, and then you're gonna understand why you wanna be part of that school. So it all starts with you. So yeah, you're gonna do your 2 essays, start them super early, write them, rewrite them, read them over again, read them over like 2 more times after that too, and then hit submit. Because on the baseline, there shouldn't be any grammatical errors, anything like that. You wanna put your best foot forward. So, yeah. So, on your supplemental essay when you're writing, I wanna go to Cornell and I wanna go to this school for this reason. There's 8 different schools. All of them look for different students in terms of academics, because all of them house different majors. I'm in the College of Arts and Sciences specifically. This is the Explorers, they call it. It's the largest college on campus. It has over 40 plus majors. There's a lot of interdisciplinary studies, so a lot of double majors, a lot of minors. This is for the people who think big. Think big macro structures. They want to understand how the world works and why it works that way. They're not telling you what to think, but teaching you how to think. It's about making changes, things like that. Agriculture and life sciences. The best way I think of this school is kind of like, they're the Jurassic Park people who've ever seen that movie. They're always discovering something, even if you're not supposed to discover it, you should have left it alone. But they're those people that shouldn't have touched it, but they did. So they're out in the field, they're doing a lot of field work, a lot of observatory work. They like to get their hands dirty. That's agriculture and life sciences. You also have the pre-vet program in that school too. Architecture, art, and planning. So I think there's a misconception that yes, when you apply to architecture school, first, that's a 5-year program. It's not your typical 4 years, because you graduate after 5 years as like a working architect. But there, it's not about having the perfect profile. It's not about already having to build something. They want to see how you understand space. How do you look at something and then try to navigate what that space could do? That's urban planning. That's studio planning. That's sound and production. That's building the world around you in the means of geography, if that makes sense. Okay. Human ecology. So this is focused on improving the world based on your physiology, understanding how the brain works, understanding how the body works, understanding how we as humans operate in the world. You could also find your pre-med, a lot of pre-med students are in human econ because it's understanding the body. Engineering, that's innovation. You don't need to be the most perfect engineer. You don't need a portfolio already. They want to see strong math grades, strong science grades, and then ability to think. The supplemental is going to ask you, what's a problem that you've thought through? There's no right answer. They want to see how you think, how you work, because engineers build something to run the world. That's how that works. The School of Business. Strategist, again, Cornell's focused on how you think. A lot of it might sound repetitive, but it's true. But in terms of the strategist, not so much like your math and science, but more, how can this business change it? What are the logistics of this business? A supplemental essay might look to propose a business plan, something like that. There's a lot of hospitality. There's a school of hospitality in there. That's one of the biggest schools in the business school. There's also real estate minors in that school as well. The Brooks School of Public Policy. So if you're like me specifically and you're interested in law or pre-law or something like that, I was also looking at the Brooks School, but the biggest difference is that Brooks School, solely public policy. You're drafting, you're taking stats, you're working with urban planners, you're working with across sectionalities to build the drafts and legislation that you need. If you're just pre-law, you might want to consider a more broad something like government or something like that. But Brooks School of Public Policy, you're drafting public policy almost every single day. And what that looks like depends on what field you're interested in. And then last but not least, Industrial Labor and Relations, which is the ILR school. So everyone in this school has the same major, Industrial Labor and Relations. What that means is you're interested in the workforce. You want to improve, whether that's unions, whether that's HR, whether that's being the principal or the supervisor. You're interested in conducting the workforce in a way that brings everybody together, whatever that may look like for you. There's a lot of international law policymakers in the ILR school because they're interested in how people work in a space together. So if you understand, and this is just a brief overview, if one of these schools speaks to you, you can Google it. They have a bunch of websites, there's students you could talk to that give you a real comprehensive overview of what this school looks like. Because then if you understand the school that you're applying to, you can best understand how you yourself can fit in that school. So that's it from me. There's my contact information, akd84@cornell.edu, or you can contact the admissions office. I'm here to answer any questions. Again, I'm an official ambassador of Cornell, so if it's admission related, I'm here to answer it. I'm an open book. And yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Phenomenal job. Thank you so much. I think she did a better job than us. What do you guys think? Let's give her another round of applause. She's like adorable. Thank you. That was great. So either questions for us or Angelina, now would be the time if anyone has any questions. I know it was a ton of information and you'll process it. And like I said, it's just the beginning of the conversation. We'll go over it again in junior meeting, senior night, senior meeting. So don't feel like you need to memorize it all. But anyone? Questions? Yes?
Do you ever bring in schools locally to do on-site applications where, like Hofstra, Malloy,
Yeah.
seniors could come in
Absolutely.
and then they find out if they get in and how much scholarship money they get?
Yes, we actually had 3 set up this year. We had NYIT, we have Nassau next week, and we had LIU as well. So we set up those on-sites, and that's exactly it. The students get to meet with the representative. They review their application, and they're able to give them an instant decision on the spot, and also talk about maybe some scholarships that they might be eligible for. So yes, we do offer those in the, I would say, the late fall of their senior year. Yeah. Good question. Any other questions? Yes?
Do you, since you recommended kids ask for their junior teachers' recommendations, do you guys give the kids like a brag sheet to give to the teachers?
Yes.
So that they can say all the stuff they're doing, so when the teacher, I'm a teacher, so
Yes.
when I get that,
It's very helpful. Yeah. So we have a teacher recommendation form that we'll give you during the junior meeting. And I want to say it's about 5 questions, but it's for them to, it's not just like a yes, no question. It's really more for them to share what their favorite assignment was, what they felt like they learned or how they grew in that particular class. Again, just to kind of like refresh their teacher's mind and give them some anecdotal stuff that they can add in their letter of recommendation. So yes, we do, and we will give you a copy of that at the junior meeting as well, so that when you're getting ready to ask your teachers at the end of this year, you'll be able to fill it out. And it'll be individualized to that class. So that teacher that you ask will get one, and then, so say you ask a science teacher, you'll fill it out based on your experience in that science class, and then you'll fill out another one for the math teacher based on your experience in the math class. So it's very individualized. Yep. Any more? You're on a roll. Keep going. No.
No, I think, I live it. I'm a high school teacher, so I know what.
Yes.
It's all about.
And we live it also. So some of this stuff is like we eat, breathe, and dream about this stuff. So the words coming out of our mouth are so second nature. But for you guys, you could be hearing it for the first time. So please don't hesitate. If after you leave here today you have a question, write it down, bring it to the junior meeting. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions. Yes.
Does the Glen Cove High School, do they recommend, right now there's a debate in education, that kids should be, I guess, applying to as many schools as possible, or a select school? I believe it's now, you want to apply to as many schools as possible, and the schools that you get the most money from, you bargain that high school against the school that maybe you want to go to?
Yeah.
To see if you can get the best financially from one to the other. So are we telling our students, apply to as many schools as possible and to bargain as much money as you get from maybe the school that you might not want to go to?
Right.
And say, hey, Hofstra's giving me 80,000, but I want to go to George Washington, they're only giving me 50. I'm not going to go to George Washington even though you want me, but I'm going to go to Hofstra. Can you match them?
So that's a layered question with a very layered answer, because if you put Hofstra in the same category as George Washington or whatever school, like it's not, sometimes the school that you're comparing it to is not equivalent. So they're going to say, okay, they're giving you money because maybe their school is here and our school is here in their eyes, right? It's all subjective. The other thing is too, and any of you guys jump in, and I would like to introduce to Mrs. Pereira. They were giving the Spanish version of this presentation, and Ms. Talkman as well, so they are both here as well. But it's layered in that, you don't want to apply to a school if you're not really interested in going there. You're wasting your time, you're wasting the admissions rep's time by going through applications. So my policy, or not policy, but my recommendation has always be keep it from 6 to 8, maybe 8 to 10 if you're on the higher end of applications, but really make sure that these are applications and schools that you really want to go to. Don't just put an application on there. Maybe you have one that's like a dream school. Maybe it's Cornell and it's your dream school and you're like, maybe I won't get in, but if I do, how great would that be? That's fine. But your whole list, as Ms. McAuliffe had said, shouldn't be all dream schools or shouldn't be all safety schools. You want to have that balance. But behind it all should be schools that you really want to go to. Because if you get in and you're comparing financial aid packages, you really want to be able to compare schools that are around the same level, because they're a business. Yes, colleges are a business. You can negotiate. I feel like personally my students are seeing less and less of the colleges kind of caving in and giving more money. I think times are tighter now. Money is less available. But does it happen? Absolutely. I wouldn't use that as a tactic in your application. Yes, you want to? Yeah, sure.
Just because you asked about letters of rec and they said it, 1,000% you want to go to your teachers that you perform strongly in, but that's not always all the pieces of the puzzle. I'll give you, I told you I'm a pre-law student. I didn't always love science and math, so my lowest grade on my transcript was chemistry, by far. I was really bad at it. It was one of the only classes that I took Regents. Nothing wrong with Regents classes, but I was typically not the track that I was in. But I couldn't grasp it for the life of me, so that when there was a quiz, there was a test, there was anything, I was in extra help. It's the class by far that I worked the hardest in, but still got the lowest grade in. I think one of the best, probably one of the most standout letters of rec on my application was my chemistry teacher, because she saw me work harder than probably anyone else, than maybe an English class that always came super easy to me. So yes, play your strengths. If you're interested in engineering, obviously ask your math teacher, whatever. But there's ways in which you can help. If you have a weak spot, quote unquote, there's ways in which you can fill that in. For me, I knew that chemistry was the lowest grade on my transcript, so I got someone that could speak that I still worked super, super hard in that class. Next thing, yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
One of the problems of the most of the kids, I think so, is they don't want to know what they want to do in the future. Then when you do the application for the college, doesn't matter what they want yet, just apply to the college, because we
Yeah, and high school's the time to explore different electives to help you figure that out. And if they don't know, many colleges will allow you to go in under something called undecided. Or they'll recommend maybe you do like a liberal arts and science until you figure out where and what you want to do, and then you can transfer. So you're going to apply, but if you don't know, you can either put, again, undecided, which means you don't know. Or again, if a school doesn't offer undecided, their version of it would be like a liberal arts and science. Yes, they'll be, so once they go in undecided, or if they did liberal arts and science and they weren't sure, they could then go through the first year of college, maybe even the second year, and then declare their major, which is what they ultimately want to study. The first 2 years of college, for the most part, you're going to be taking general courses. So you're going to take a math course, you're going to take a science course, you're going to take an English course, and that's standard in all majors. So you're going to be using that time to kind of get the basics out of the way until you have to officially declare. I have had students that go in and say, I want to do this, I want to do psychology, I want to be a therapist, I want to do this. And then in that first year, they decide, no, I don't want to do that at all. And they change also. So you could think you have your mind made up, and then all of a sudden you take a philosophy class and you're like, I think I'm interested in that. So students change their mind all the time. We have seniors that go in and aren't sure. It's completely normal. Does it help if you have a direction or you have a passion and we can help navigate that to find a college that's a good fit? Yes. But colleges, as you said, I think Cornell has 80 different majors. They have options. And so students that either don't know or maybe they thought they knew and they changed their mind, switching is, they are able to do that for a majority of the majors. Nursing sometimes can be difficult because your life is kind of mapped out for you over the 4 years with internships and being in hospitals, and even like there are certain majors that you can't transfer into. It's very uncommon, but it does happen. So I don't want, I can't speak in definites. There's some gray when it comes to it, but for the most part, majority of the schools, yes, you can go in undecided, or again, you can change your mind, and change your major. Yes. Studying abroad comes up every year, international studies or studying abroad. Every school has their own study abroad program, and that will likely be dictated by the major that you're doing or a minor. I actually was a minor in Spanish. Ask me how much Spanish I know, and it's about this much. But one of the opportunities was a study abroad opportunity. And you needed that for one of the classes, and I didn't really have the time or the money, and so I wasn't able to do it. But many schools do have study abroad opportunities. I would recommend when you go on campus tours or if you're meeting with college reps to ask those questions about study abroad opportunities that they have for the particular major that maybe your child is interested, or a couple of majors if they're interested in a couple of things. Yes?
When the letters of recommendation are added to the Common App, are the students still not privy to seeing them?
Yes. So that's there's two things I want to mention. We actually don't use the Common App to upload our letters of recommendation, which this will go over in the junior meeting. We upload our letters of recommendation, or the teachers do, I should say, through Naviance, and then we send out that information through Naviance. But yes, they are completely confidential. It holds more weight when a college or university is able to see that that letter hasn't been influenced by the fact that your child or you have read that letter. So the college knows that it hasn't been influenced, it's not a biased letter, and I can guarantee you that we read the letter, the counselors read the letters before they go out, and we would never send a letter that has anything bad written about your child. That's not the point of the letter. And I like to believe that no teacher would ever say yes to writing a letter if they were going to write something negative. So rest assured, you can send them over in confidence, knowing they're going to be glowing and they're going to, portray your child in the best light as possible. Any other questions? No? Yep. Thank you. We appreciate you guys coming out. I know it's freezing out. We do have extra Cornell booklets that If anyone wants any, we'll also have them in the guidance office. You can grab them during your junior meeting if you want. But thank you again. And if you haven't scheduled your junior meeting, please contact the guidance office.